Right, now we're here to talk about season 3, episode 5 of The Boys. Um, this was a pretty interesting episode in my opinion. How'd you feel about it, Chuku?
Um, definitely of an interesting turn. I mean, every episode seems to be an interesting turn, but
Yeah,
to me, this one was more mellow. Like, I feel like the last few episodes were more
chaotic.
yeah, chaotic.
Hmm.
This one was a more of a mellow turn. I was surprised we didn't get to see Edgar this episode.
Oh yeah, that's true. He was not in this
Yeah,
episode. But this episode starts out with the whole Frenchie and Kimiko
yeah,
storyline. So what did you think about that? It seems like it's really interesting seeing the emotional place that Kimiko is in, because even though she's hurt in the hospital, her powers don't work, she's happy about it, which is which makes sense, like given what we know about how she hates her powers, basically how she hates being used for her powers. um yeah,
yeah.
how'd you think about it, like in that moment, seeing her like happy and smiling
I
about the
was,
fact that
to
she
be
was
honest, I
okay.
was so shocked with the whole music video when she was
Oh
singing,
yeah.
whatever. I really love that scene. That's like
That
one of
was a
my
great
favorite
scene.
scenes,
That
just
was a
because
great
like
scene.
it's it goes back to like anything if you notice with Eric Kripke where he loves making spoofs. So
Hmm.
it's like kind of like a spoof of a music video or whatnot. But her actually talking, whatever, is just it was a dope thing. But yeah, that's actually interesting that she's I mean, you brought up a good point why she's happy, but it's interesting to see that like someone who's been basically like a weapon is no longer feeling like a weapon anymore. So we got to
Yeah.
see the aftermath of how someone who's not a weapon is. So that's something that I definitely enjoyed seeing with that scene, as well as my God, I'm forgetting his name. The dude who's always with her. Um,
Frenchie.
Frenchie, there we go, Frenchie. It's
Hmm.
funny, call him Frenchie. Um, well as how Frenchie is reacting to it, and how when Homeland, I mean not Homelander, when Butcher came in, they were just kind of like, bro, we know you don't really care about her, so you know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, and then how do you feel about Starlight in this episode? Cause
Starling this episode.
yeah, she seems to be going through it a lot, and I
Mm,
feel like I don't know. Maybe she's right, but I don't know um how wise her moves are. She
yeah,
she's going at like people kind of openly,
openly.
and yeah, it feels like she's not being careful or cautious, because the whole thing with Supersonic was because she kind of, you know revealed things to him
Mm,
a little bit too much too soon. And but now she's kind of just like confronting um A Train publicly in the hallway. She's confronting Ashley in her office about Homelander. Like, she's not really doing a lot to hide it
I
anymore.
think okay. So as far as the A Train situation, I mean, I think when that situation's like they've already had their kind of conversation, so it's not like I mean Homelander can only at this point Homelander can only do so much right now. I mean obviously he can threaten Huey, so that's the
Hmm.
thing that we have to worry
Yeah.
about. But for most part, there's only so much he can really do. So I think in her mind, I could see why she's a little bit like not as careful or not as of holding back. Not to mention she's still technically the leader, or in public it's still seen as like she's still
Co-captain.
co-captain.
Yeah.
So because there's a co-captain there, she has some level of liability, or she has some level of authority to do these things without it um, without it being too abrupt. But as far as her actions in general this whole episode, I mean, again, I kind of agree with her with the whole Huey thing, where it's like Huey's doing something that's kind of very dangerous, and like this, like the weapon they have, like I mean, Soldier Boy seems like he might even be more destructive than Homelander, so we don't know whether or not that's going to
Turn out
really like
well.
turn out. Yeah, they won't have the best turnout. Like they might just get a new dictator depending on things go well.
Yeah.
But so I can kind of see where she's coming from with this, and it's just it's one of those situations where it's like whatever they're doing is risky. So it's like, what risk do they take is really the question.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm seeing from that perspective. But I'm definitely more on Huey's side just because it's like we can see Huey's teleportation, and that guy has been pretty like
Yeah.
useless for the most part. Like I don't even like the only reason why I see Huey there is just because hey, you know, he lost his girl, so he's sort of the
Yeah.
victim in this thing. But besides that, it's like Huey's just been kind of like
Hmm.
I don't know, he's just been there. So I'm kind of like, yeah, let's give Huey powers, man. Like screw
I
that.
mean, yeah, I do enjoy seeing Huey with powers. It's an interesting turn, and the whole thing of my prediction earlier that all of them were gonna eventually try Temp V. I still think that's gonna happen. I think all the non superpower people, because even MM was a little bit, not as hard
He
on it as he
he
was in the last episode.
yeah, definitely wasn't as hard. Although in the beginning, he kind of did have a whole thing where it's like the whole point why
Yeah,
we do this is because of the whole superpowers. So it's like
right.
let's avoid doing it. So I do think that is a possibility, but I feel like they're obviously preparing for a turnout, and I feel like depending on that how that turnout comes out with Huey or Butcher, the side effects of what's going on, they may have a change of heart. Because I think
Mm,
that's the question. That's the question they're coming down, which is like, is it really worth the risk? Is really the question they're asking themselves.
right,
Is what's coming on. So
right.
we'll definitely see how that plays out. But yeah, it was possible. I actually thought when MM first when MM was like getting weaker, I thought he was like, did they just give him powers already? But then I realized, oh, he put
Yeah,
him down, which makes sense because his thing with Soldier Boy when it worked out.
yeah, that's true.
So
That's true. That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, so one of the other one of the other huge storylines was the going back to A Train
Oh yeah, A Train.
and Blue Hawk.
Yes.
Oh man. A Train to me is just like I don't understand how you redeem this character. Um he's so detestable in my as I'm watching this show. And that whole Blue Hawk storyline just kind of emphasizes that. Like he's clearly trying to gain favor of the other members of the Seven, specifically
Yeah.
Homelander, and to do this, he's like, "Oh, I need my ratings to go up," and that's his only motivation for any of this.
Yeah.
Um, and then the way that it turned out, like it was funny, like the whole soups lives matter. It
Yes.
was pretty funny. um but it was also just kind of sad a little bit just to see um how low this character has gone, specifically A
Yeah.
Train.
Yeah. One thing about the boys that's always been a playing of a theme is, these aren't just like your superheroes. These are your basically kind of like celebrity figures and all these kinds of stuff. So we're kind of
Yeah,
seeing how they portray with A Train, how you have this celebrity figure who's pretending to be about a certain cause, but reality he's just trying to, boost his image up.
yeah,
And what I actually liked about this was what happened to his brother, because it seems like his brother he might have been dead, or there might could have been some serious injury of his brother. So
yeah. They
I'm
said
really
he
curious.
can't walk.
Oh, he
They say
can't
he's
walk.
paralyzed.
He's paralyzed. Okay,
So
okay.
that's a serious consequence for him. I don't know how he it feels like he doesn't care about serious consequences, but I mean, this is his brother. Like, so we haven't
Exactly.
seen anything happen to anybody who's like really close to him before. We've
Yeah.
seen him run through girls and not care,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
we haven't seen what happens to people that he cares about. Um, yeah, but we'll see if this has any effect on him. I don't know if it will, which is a weird, you know, thought to
Yeah.
have, but we'll see.
I'm curious, how did you feel about that scene where Soldier Boy and Butcher kind of make a deal? Because I don't know what it was, but for me, I felt like it was like Dean talking to Boy's Dean. Because I feel like Butcher's always reminded me of Dean. Like his personality is so similar to Dean
Oh, I
to
can see that.
Supernatural. So it's like when Soldier Boy's talking to him, it's like Dean versus Boy's Dean talking to each
Yeah,
other.
that's funny.
So
Yeah,
that's what
no,
it got.
that was a great scene. I think what's her name? The lady Crimson something.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh, he's gonna kill all of us," and this kind of just showed why Butcher is the person that he is, because he's the guy who's able to stand up to. I mean, granted, at this point he did have powers,
Mm.
but typically he's the guy that like will stand up to a super powered um, person and just like you know do something as crazy as like make a deal with him.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. He's not a person who shies away from that level of confrontation, and
definitely,
so
definitely.
it was really cool to see that moment with between the two of them.
Definitely, definitely. And it kind of goes back to what Edgar said about power. That power isn't about just having strength, but it's about the ability to get your will out there and
Yeah,
like
that's a
manifest it.
good point. That's a good
So
point.
that's definitely something playing along. And one thing I've noticed with Homelander, and you kind of see this in this episode, is that Homelander, it would seem like, and this kind of goes back to Homelander's weakness, where they were talking about what decisions they should make, because he's not a business person. But the way it's framed, it's almost like Homelander is just a kid when you think about it. He's just
Mm,
like this. Basically, he's just this kid, and he doesn't know how to deal with these mature responsibilities because he's
yeah,
always had people cover them up, or they've taken care of that. So now that he's in this position, it's this weird situation where he's like, even though he's like, oh, I want to control everything, he doesn't understand the responsibility of that control, and we can
that's
see how
true.
that back can fire on him.
Yeah,
So that's a very interesting thing that I noticed with these, or at least these scenes that we're seeing with Homelander. And I thought it was very funny with the whole like, the talking about the cancel culture, and they're talking about like, they were like on the nose about like, yeah, we're the Homelanders, like, we gotta fight these elites and everything. I was just like,
yeah.
it's too perfectly on the nose. And even with NMM's daughter, and then the guy who's taking care of his daughter, it's just like you can see that kind of
Yeah, I
that
mean
it,
that whole thing gave me like creeps vibes. It's like he's just sitting her in front of the TV, showing her videos of Homelander
yeah,
making his speech, and it's like, ugh, this is, ugh, I don't like
yeah,
this.
yeah, exactly. It's a very interesting. It's like, and the way he portrays it, like, yeah, Homelander's a little bit brash, but reality, he's like talking about the message. Like, it's
Yeah,
interesting how they kind of show that kind of aesthetic, and how like certain people could be interested in it, and
yeah,
how like people can ignore certain elements because they're talking about a message that is very hidden point to them. And it's,
right.
again, it's not black and white as much as we would want to say it is. There is a nuance, but what happens when the nuance is shut down? It causes these sort of problems where now it's like everyone's just acting out of brash, and people, as long as there's somebody trying to, control, or has a solution to the problem, quote unquote, that's what people are looking for, and they're getting it out there. So it's,
Yeah,
I love it. Again, it's on the nose, but the boys does it in a way that's very relatable. I think what makes it work in this series is that it's comedical. So because it's comedical, it's forgivable, as opposed to them just telling you a message of like, this is what happens when people just listen to authority, quote
right.
unquote.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
It's easier to, yeah. It's easier to get the message when you're laughing along with the story.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other last minute points to touch on with this episode?
Um. No, I think I do speculate. I do feel like, what's your prediction for Soldier Boy? Because you think Soldier Boy is gonna work with Soldier. You think Soldier Boy is gonna work with what's his face? Sorry, I got
Homelander?
distracted. Homelander, yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so. It feels like Homelander, it feels like he has this inbuilt animosity towards Homelander, because you see him walking through the streets and see him looking at Homelander's pictures all over the place. So I don't think they're going to be friendly with each other, but we will see. Yeah.
I mean, the next episode's called Superhero Orgy, so.
Well, like I said, we'll see.
But yeah, that's about it. That's all
Okay.
my thoughts.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Also just Frenchie with that lady, the Russian lady.
Mm,
He decided not to go after that kill. I'm interested to see how that story pans out.
mm.
Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to the, the next episode. But yeah, definitely let us know if you have any predictions in the comments. If you have any thoughts about this episode in the comments, anything that we missed, anything that you want to talk about, even if you disagree with anything we said, let us know in the comments down below, and we will catch you later.
Peace.